Good afternoon and welcome to Socialsuite's ESG GO webinar. I'd firstly like to introduce myself. My name is Jessica Schlosser and I manage Socialsuite's business development. Socialsuite's ESG GO platform supports small to medium companies in taking their first step in ESG reporting with intuitive software, expert sustainability consulting services to guide them on their ESG journey, and templates to share their great progress with stakeholders. It's very easy to get started and requires minimal resources from their team and management. The platform is built around a core set of 21 ESG metrics defined by the World Economic Forum, which was specifically devised to be simple and easy for companies to adopt. All of our members have experienced additional stakeholders and funding opportunities after kickstarting their ESG disclosure. Today, I'm joined by our Head of ESG, Dr. Tim Siegenbeek van Heukelom, and Lindsay Reed, CEO of Minbos Resources, to discuss his positive experiences after communicating his ESG disclosure to the market. Throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat box on the right, and we'll respond at the end. We also have two exciting promotions to share with you at the end as well. Now I'll hand over to Tim. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jess, for that introduction. And welcome, Lindsay. Thanks for joining us today. You're joining us from, where are you again? You're in Angola, is that right?
I'm in a suburb called Teletona, which is in Luanda, Angola, and it's 6:30 in the morning.
Well, thanks for getting out of bed that early. Much appreciated.
Pleasure.
Wonderful. So today we really want to just have more of an informal chat around ESG, but really related to what your business, what Minbos Resources is doing. And I'm trying to provide a little bit of structure around that. So we're looking at here, the slide is, we'll kick off in a minute with first introduction about, who's Minbos Resources, what business are you in? And then we'll just talk a little bit about, what is ESG, why is it important, and what is that popularity actually now doing in terms of creating pressure on companies? Then we move that piece into, what do you do then as a business around that? So we'll talk a little bit about building ESG credentials, finding that starting point to start that journey around ESG, a framework you can use as a starting point, and then really see how Minbos has kind of gone through that journey up to date. And then we'll end in about 20 minutes, probably. We'll get to the point where we'll see if there's any questions from the audience, if they have anything else that they want to know from your ESG journey. So first things first, can you tell us a little bit about Minbos? What type of company, what business are you in? So just a high-level overview of your business.
We want to be a nutrient production and distribution business in Angola and the countries around that. We started on a little phosphate project in Cabinda, and we won a tender a couple of years ago to develop that. And we did it on the basis of working with the IFDC to supply fertilizer to 3 million smallholder farmers in Angola. But it's, as I was saying to somebody the other day, this project's a little bit like a Rafael Nadal second serve at Roland Garros when you're standing on the baseline. It's just got really big on me really quickly. So there's a lot of things going on now that are beyond phosphate, but still well within nutrient and the nutrient distribution in Angola and around in the surrounding countries.
Excellent. So when you were just saying the smallholder farmers there, is that, I found this quote that I put on the slide there, in which you said the best way to make a difference is to help someone else make a living. Is that referring to the smallholder farmers, or how does that?
I think it's a little bit of everything, Tim. But we've sort of broadly categorised the markets in Angola as grow to eat, grow to sell, and grow to export. The grow to eat people, you can see in the little orange hatched area there, there's 10 million hectares down there, and there's probably 3 million farmers farming about 5 million of those hectares on 1 to 2 hectare plots. The vast majority of them don't use any fertiliser at all. So the yields and therefore the utilisation of the land is very, very low. They might only get like 800 kilograms of maize per hectare when, broadacre commercial farming in Brazil might be getting 10. So what we're hoping to do is sort of double that. That's the objective with the IFDC, and maybe do a little bit better. And then we can take them away from, growing to being, farming for business rather than farming to live, to farm for business. And once you do that, it has big impact. It changes their ability for kids to go to school, extra resources, improves your nutrition. There's so many. It works on so many levels. But there are other markets in Angola as well. Grow to sell. Farmers that are getting a little bit more organised, and there's some very organised farmers here selling into the supermarkets. But they should have a huge grow to export sector, and they really don't export anything. The potential here in Angola is massive, and so I'm pushing really, really hard on that front, which is great opportunity for the country, but also means a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, and related to that. Is, we're talking here at large in this webinar about ESG, so I really kind of want to, take that look a bit at that side. And what we see is there's this massive popularity around ESG. Like there's all these, like it's constantly in the news, from things around, investor pressure on, the wake of climate change. We've got COP26 coming up soon. You've got, companies really focusing on, if you commit to ESG, are you following through? There's this, there's all these claims around ESG, first mover advantage things. So all these things that, what do you see from your perspective and, on the ground, your stakeholders at large? Do you feel anything where you're operating in, in Angola and, there in Africa at large? Do you feel there's that pressure there as well around, ESG at large?
Look, Tim, the pressure really comes from the project, not from ESG. So we brought ESG, the big attraction sort of to bring in a framework for us was we've got a project here that just can have a massive social impact, not on the 3 million small farmers, but on the country and the region. And so it was really, really important for us was to make sure that our governance structure and our framework lived up to the project. So we needed something to come in and say, well, let's not let the project down because the project is intrinsically so damn good. We need a framework around that. So no, I don't really feel pressure from the ESG side. It's sort of like ESG was a really, really good framework to make sure that we didn't mess up the project that is just intrinsically so good. And it didn't deny anybody the opportunity to invest in the project. It's great to have a great impact project, but you need to provide other people the opportunity to participate that and make sure the company was also an impact investment. So you didn't want to disqualify anybody from being able to participate with us in what we're doing here by not meeting something as simple as an ESG framework. So I think that's the perspective that I brought in, that I brought into it, or it's brought to me.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're really kind of taking that where the world is going, that stakeholder-centric approach. Like you don't want to let anyone down. You don't want to let the country, the people you work with down. Like you need to make this work. And I think that is at large what a lot of people are saying is that businesses need to start thinking exactly that way. It's not anymore around that really traditional focus on just making sure your 2 or 3 investors are getting their investments return, but it is all those people involved in that project. So, and I like that quote is I put on this slide as well, nutrient business with inherent ESG contribution. I think that's exactly that stakeholder-centric approach you just described.
Exactly. You don't really, when you bring the framework in and you start looking at the development goals, what was really appealing was there was a lot of aspirational attributes about the way you approach the goals. So many things that we use as management tools, and I've been doing this probably longer than I care to remember, but the hint would be in the grey hair, I guess. But, a lot of, we'll have an audit system, we'll have a risk review system, we'll have a safety system, and you report against those and you'll tick them off. And, at the end of the year, you're sort of saying, we haven't, we've checked it through, we haven't really done any of the bad things. So it's been, most of the tools that we implement inside corporations are risk aversion tools. What the ESG framework does, which is really, really appealing to me, and particularly in this project, is it gives you a framework to actually bring benefits, to quantify the benefits, but not just quantify the benefits and report the benefits. It gives you a framework to chase them down. And it's certainly, in the 6 months that we've been using it, it's changed the way that we look at our business. It's changed the way that who we look at as part of our business. What is part of our business? How is our business measured, and who we're measured to? But the beautiful thing about the goals is you not only just have people and planet, which opens up that whole gambit of who you're delivering to and why, but you have prosperity, which can easily be defined as dividends back to shareholders, but so much broader and richer than that. I like to think of it more as a flourishing. How is the country growing? How are your employers growing? How is your community growing? How is this project actually benefiting them? How can they go on and then benefit somebody else down the road from you? And it's certainly it's changed my management style. I go out there and look for how people, even my competitors. I've had discussions with major competitors in the last couple of weeks up at the International Fertiliser Association, and at the end of that discussion, some of them are saying to us, "That's great what you're doing down there, Lindsay. How can we help?" Because you just put on the line. So this is what we're trying to do. If we get it right, there's room for everybody. So it's just changed the way we look at our company and our opportunity.
And I think that's really interesting how you describe that. And we see that with quite a few companies is once you start that journey, and for a lot of people like ESG credentials at large, we see that it's really hard to find that starting point. So where do you start? And that first step of, like you just said, just looking at how you do things. You're already doing a lot of these things, but it's taking that step in actually writing it down, being transparent about it, and having a framework that you say, so these are the 21 things we're actually going to report against. Let's look at them. How can we disclose? How can we improve them? But also how can we create a narrative around them? And that is really about sharing with the world what you're doing. So what we've done is we use this framework that the World Economic Forum created really to do exactly that. A lot of companies struggle to find that starting point. What framework do you use, and how do you identify what's material to you and start disclosing those indicators? So you're not alone, and that's really interesting. What we've seen is that there's all these, quite well-known companies that are all now using this particular framework that was designed by the World Economic Forum. They call it the stakeholder capitalism metrics. And all these companies are now starting to make those disclosures, the exact same you're working towards. There's at least 50 or so quite global, well-known companies that have it in their annual report at the moment. Hundreds of them have committed to do it in the next few years. So we said, that's great that they do that, because they have their sustainability teams, they do all those things. So like you see here with Total, an example, they've got a nice table in their annual report, but they have a whole team that does that for them. Or they bring one of the big, accounting firms in and say, create a report for us. But it's finding that way, and that's really what we focused on working with, companies like Minbos is, how can you make small steps and really start working towards that full set of disclosures? And that is what we really try to do here with Socialsuite. And that is where you joined up with us. That was actually late last year. So it was in December 2020. You were one of the very first adopters of starting to do this. What made you at that point in time, what got you into that mindset, we need to start doing something around ESG? How did you take that first step towards ESG reporting? What was the catalyst for you?
I think a phone call from Damien Hadger. And explaining it to me and telling me what he was trying to do. And we'd just taken on 3 new board members, and I think the first board meeting that we all had together was the first meeting straight after we'd adopted back in December. We had a board meeting in February, and they immediately just said, we have to do this. And the board was probably the first step, so I pointed out, I think on a little LinkedIn post the other day, we had a board meeting, which I was actually in Dubai on the day, taking a call from, I had one director in New York, and she's usually in Israel. I had another director in Singapore, he's usually in Mauritius. I had 2 directors in Perth, and I had another one in Zambia. I sat down after I made that post, and I realised that only 2 of my 5 directors have ever met one another in person. And so you've got this broad across the world, directorship trying to make these decisions and trying to implement these platforms and frameworks. And it was very obvious that Socialsuite was something that was going to make it very, very easy for a management team that was thinly spread all across the world trying to implement a fairly important project. So it's lived up to my expectations and more in terms of both helping on the reporting, but certainly on the narrative, but also the excellence. A lot of people talk about best practice. I think one of the things this does is every time you go in and look at the framework and the dashboard, you're actually trying to think about better practice. What else can I do? Better business, better practices, better engagement. So it's not best. It's no longer best practice for me. It stimulates you to want to be better.
I think that's a really
good tool.
We see that a lot is then when companies take that first step, they, at the starting point of their ESG journey, we work with them to set a baseline. So this is a little snapshot of where we started out in December last year. And when you go, like you said, when you go through those 21 indicators and you start setting that, draw that line in the sense, this is where we are today, make your disclosures, that really gives you that, that gap analysis straight away, like we can do better here. Yeah, we've disclosed information, but we can do all these other things. And it's going that above and beyond and that, moving into excellence, thinking about what the next steps are. And we can already see here, this is like from our ESG GO, and you can see that, the focus here, what you've done is over that, first reporting period, straight away, moved some really kind of focus on governance, moved that forward there. And we really see then, working with you that you don't have to do everything at once. And I think that's the key mistake a lot of companies make is thinking that the moment you start to do ESG, you have to be perfect, you have to have everything ready. But it's that journey you're on. It is that, working towards excellence and making those disclosures there. So where do you feel that right now you've done a lot of work on governance? Is there any particular area that you're working on? There's a lot of attention at the moment. Well, there's always been a lot of attention around climate change and climate action. We've got COP26 coming quite soon. Is that a particular area you're focusing on at the moment, or what are your next step in terms of ESG?
It certainly will be in the next 6 months because we're sort of completing our DFS and we've already started building the project, but we'll complete the DFS while we're doing that. We have to make a decision, for example, on whether we use diesel or gas for the dryer or the final product, and we have that option. We have probably also the option to change over in the future. So we actually made a small order after we'd placed the order for our plant to say, can we please put a dual burner dryer so that we can shift from diesel to gas, which obviously has an impact going forward. But it's changed the way from it's like a carbon or a GHG reporting basis. There's a number of things that we're looking at going forward, and they're not just reporting; they're actually looking at your business strategy. For example, we're already looking at saying, okay, we were looking at making a phosphate granule with some water-soluble phosphate, but it's possible that we might be able to do that without the inclusion of the water-soluble phosphate and add it somewhere else, and that changes the GHG accounting on the product that we're doing ourselves without losing a lot of performance. So that's something we'll look at in the next 2 or 3 months. Other business opportunities, green ammonia was around. My chairman said, is there an opportunity for that in Angola? Well, it turns out it's probably one of the best opportunities in the whole world. And because we're in the nutrient business, they call it NPK, but really the best way to start is PNK because that's the level of capital intensity. So we've got the P under control. We're now looking at N and the ability to make N. Using green ammonia and electrolysis here in Angola, which has some of the best untapped hydroelectric power around. And that was stimulated by this discussion and this framework. And, next thing we're talking about with the IFDC is, okay, rolling out what are the actual implementation plans for the farmers on the 5 million hectares. And then you realise that 5 million hectares has been mined. Well, that's a Freudian slip. That 5 million hectares has been mined. So those farms have not replaced any nutrients. So the nutrients have been mined out of that farmland now for 50 years. So it is very, very deficient. And one of the things I'm sure it'll be deficient in is is soil organic carbon. So there's an opportunity down there with 5 million hectares. And so we've got to look at that, because soil health creates soil organic carbon. The soil organic carbon won't be the tail that wags the dog, but it's something that we have to look at, because good soil health, and then that will change the way we look at the whole rollout of the program. So so it's reporting, one thing, yes. Opportunity, every time I look at the reporting benefits of this, it just gets overwhelmed by the opportunity. It just drives the opportunity in front of you all the time.
And I love that. Like, a lot of companies still, especially at that starting point, they look at ESG as a risk mitigation strategy. They think about risk, but it is equally opportunity. And I think
it's a benefit maximisation strategy. We've all got lots of risk mitigation strategies and risk aversion strategies and tools in place already. What we don't have easily available is things that drive your business in terms of maximising benefits for the shareholders and for everybody else that's involved in the company.
So we really see ESG not only as a risk mitigating tool, but also as a really strategic way at finding those opportunities and really see what is next. How can we, increase value, but not just for your traditional shareholder, but for stakeholders at large. And that's really at the core of what ESG is trying to do. And I think this is a great example of that, how seeing those opportunities there.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So it's really good to see as well that you're really kind of also very transparent in, let's take your website, making those ESG disclosures, and really explaining what is Minbos trying to do, and providing that level of detail, because we see a lot of companies making big and bold ESG commitments, but then after that it's eerily quiet for months and months, if not years, and then people start asking what's going on. But you're really getting to that point of, this is our story, here are our disclosures, so it's really clearly there. The other thing I found is that you're really, you were at the AMAC Africa Down Under forum. Was that last month or the month before? Was it in August?
Yes. I think it was last month. Yes, I think so. I've lost track.
And so I saw you're in the panel and you were, talking about the project. And at the end of that, there was a question from someone exactly asking about ESG. I think the question was actually directed at someone from PwC, but it was about really asking around how, junior companies can start recording their ESG metrics in a reasonably simple way, given financial constraints, finding that, stepping stone or bridging mechanism to go from nothing to very complex reporting. So that starting point there. And it was quite interesting that the PwC representative didn't really have a very good answer there. And you were there saying, oh, we're doing all this. So it was quite fascinating. So I just wanted to ask you, you already kind of alluded to that, but from your perspective, what advice or tips would you have for companies that are at that starting point of that ESG journey? They're still on the fence, they feel that pressure or urgency to do something, but what should they do to, kickstart that journey?
Well, I have to confess, when I was listening to that answer, I was sitting in Angola as well, live streaming my conference. And I sent a WhatsApp message to a colleague of mine who was sitting in the audience and said, can you please ask me a question? What is Minbos doing with ESG? Because, there was a lot of discussion about, let's bring in a standard. And, I think my response on the day was, we're talking about people, and planet and prosperity. This is who we are. This is where we live. This is who we live with and what we do. It's a little disturbing that we actually wanted to we standardise that. And I think what's really good about the PPPG is that it's aspirational goals. And, so rather than saying best practice, just sort of, well, what's better practice? And I think the framework is a great launching point, and it was a little strange that given that PwC had actually helped develop the 21-point system within the WEF development goals, to have this, we've got to get a standard to report against type answer, when it's so much broader and better than that. So for small companies like ourselves, which are which are stuck for resources. And there's a lot of people trying to do a lot of things all over the world. Well, actually, not a lot of people trying to do a lot of things all over the world. Grabbing something like SocialSuite is a really, really good way to kickstart you, because you get into a framework that's got high level of development, has been contributed to by Big Four accounting firms. So it's not going to go away. It's broadly encompasses really great attributes and indicators that you would want to follow. It gives you the option to report to if that's your predilection from the history, but you'll quickly find within 6 months that it's so much more than that.
That's brilliant to hear. I think that is really what you're demonstrating with Minbos as well, that you're going above and beyond, and ESG is really in the bones of the company. It's really good to see that. I just want to basically, just highlight again that, for people that are, new to SocialSuite and to ESG, Go as a platform, it's a really simple solution. So it's really something you can kickstart really quickly with. After setting a baseline, which takes about an hour, you can really straight away dive in. So, anyone can start pretty much today. So it's something not to wait too long with. Just get started today. We're getting to the end of our conversation now, Lindsay. I just want to see if there's anyone in the audience that's got any questions. So I'll just hand it back to Jess and to see if she might have been monitoring the chat at the moment to see if there's anything, any question that's come up.
Yes, fantastic. Attendees, while you're typing your questions, I'll just take you through our exciting promotions just quickly. We have an amazing opportunity for a CEO to be interviewed with Sky News. This is essentially 10,000 worth of media content included in the SocialSuite fee. We only have 2 spots, so get in quick. You'll also get a little clip that you can circulate in your own website, etc. And we also have a 15% discount for AMEC members until the end of the month only. So please don't hesitate to get in touch as well. And I do have a question. Lindsay, has it led to interesting interactions with financial stakeholders, your ESG disclosure?
It has. And more than that, it's led to interactions with financial stakeholders that I probably wouldn't have interacted with before. So we've found, potential investors, strategic investors that want to be in this space of impact projects. So I think, if we hadn't implemented this and we hadn't, published the narrative that we've had and which gave us a better way to showcase our project, because it's, as I said, we're just trying to live up to our project, not the other way around. It's putting that project in front of a lot more people. There's some pretty amazing financial stakeholders that we're talking to at the moment. Yeah, so exactly. No, it's helped a lot. It's changed.
Fantastic, thank you. And you also showed that total disclosed in the annual report against the SCM framework. What do smaller companies do? Where do they put their disclosures? So Lindsay, where is Minbos putting their ESG disclosures at the moment?
So I think we're running it out. We certainly run it into our board papers and disclose it to ourselves. And I think that's pretty important, is to report back to yourself. So Tim was talking about being transparent. The most important person you have to be transparent to is yourselves and your own governance as your board. But it obviously comes out in our annual report and our quarterly report. And I think you guys have a platform where people can register and watch it live as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No other questions. Just want to thank you very much for your time, Lindsay. That was fantastic.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dan. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.